Hi, welcome to Manas Sheila YouTube channel. Before we start, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Let's start the video. If you haven't watched the previous video, I'll link it in the description box, or you can click here. Tensura Volume 20. Chapter 1. The First Battle. Ancestors. At the Holy Empire of Lubelius, where Xian and Adalman were sent. They're sitting on the sofa, relaxing. Next to me, Xian is proudly asking for more tea. The ladies in waiting of Luminous responded to their request. Xian accepts it as a matter of course, and eats the tea set on the table, but she guessed there has nothing to be nervous about. What's that? I should be in a better position than her, but this difference in reaction is strange, isn't it? Why am I the master of this place so nervous, while Xian, who is supposed to be my secretary, seems to be unconcerned? No, I can't think about it. Rimuru-sama, these sweets are delicious. I've tasted it, please. Xian offered it to me, and I popped it into my mouth. I wondered what kind of a joke it was that Xian, who is not a good cook, was going to poison me, but it was okay. I don't need to be poisoned, though, since poisons don't work on me. It sure tastes good. Xian may not have the best sense of aesthetics, but she does have a good sense of taste. That's why I say it's unreasonable. Because, you know, she didn't taste the food she made before serving it to us. Now that she's working on perfecting the taste with skill, the appearance and texture are still not good enough. How is it? Is it good? Yes, it is. It's not too sweet and crisp, and I enjoyed the way it loosens up in my mouth. This pastry is like a financier. It was seriously delicious, with a subtle savory accent. Xian heard my reply and broke into a big smile. Then she dropped a bombshell. That was good. I was confident again, and I'm glad Rimuru-sama was pleased. I stopped moving and stared at Xian. There was the same smile as ever. I turned my eyes to the sweets in my hand, and then looked at Xian again. Could this be? Yes. I made them. You're lying. These statements were hard to believe, but they seemed to be true. It had been a long time since I saw Xian's smug face, but I could forgive her for bragging about it. Xian has finally conquered the look and the texture of the food. By the way, did you make this taste and shape with your skill? No, Rimuru-sama. I made it with my own hands. Xian was showing tremendous progress. I guess the change of environment is very important. Xian and Benimaru had told them to do so, but they have suddenly awakened since they came to another country. But what was the trigger? Just as I was thinking that, I heard a voice answering my question. I had a hard time. Luminous came into the reception room blurting out that she had had a hard time. Luminous greeted me as I was getting up from my seat, saying, "Sorry to keep you waiting," and then she sat down on the sofa herself, as if there was no need to thank me. Then she started to continue what she had just said. What's the matter? You said she can cook with confidence, so I entrusted her to cook, and she prepared a novel-looking dish that is hardly food at all. Luminous words are strong. The word novelty is so heavy that I can't help but get a little mystified. And what's more, it's hard to understand why the texture is so bad, but the taste is so good. Some people are even trying to reproduce it for fun. I'm so worried about the negative impact on our food culture that even I had to move in. She seems to be very depressed and angry. I couldn't help but say, ugh. I was at a loss for words to say back. But, I'm glad you were able to correct Xian. We had given up on you a long time ago. When I tried to cover it up for the time being, Luminous gave me a glare. Xian also looked at me with a disgruntled expression on her cheeks in protest. I pretended not to notice this and waited for Luminous' answer. I can imagine how much you guys have spoiled Xian, but it is none of my business. I was going to leave it alone, but I can't say so now that it has started to do some harm. So, I told her. Oh? It may be a misnomer to say that I spoiled her, but it may seem so from the side. It's just that Shuna, but Benimaru and I couldn't take a strong attitude towards Xian because we can't cook. I think it's quite rude to point out to others what you can't do. So I was hoping that Shuna or Gabichi-kan would give me an advice. Shuna was too kind. And she gave up too soon. Gabichi-kan was too weak to reach Xian's heart. The taste had improved, and the death toll was not so high. I should have tried cooking myself and tried to be close to Xian's feelings, since I have a long slime life ahead of me. If I had done so, I might have found more things to be improved, and this problem might have been solved earlier. It was my fault and Benimaru's fault that we turned our eyes away from our weak areas. As I reflect on this, Luminous gives me an answer. It may be laced with poison, so taste it before serving it to our guests. I see. So that's why Xian said poisoned earlier. That was indeed a good idea. Xian doesn't have a strange sense of taste. If she gets into the habit of tasting the food herself, she would naturally realize the problem of the dish. "You're a brilliant woman, Luminous," I said, expressing my admiration from the bottom of my heart. Luminous turned away and said, "HMPH," and turned away from me, her cheeks dyed with a little embarrassment. There was an unexpected good news that Xian's cooking would be improved, but it had nothing to do with the purpose of our visit. Rammers reported that the battle between Milim and the bug demon Lord Zelanis was at a stalemate. At the same time, the capital of Lubelius, the seat of Luminous, was being attacked by angels from the sky. Milim had sent Gopta and others to reinforce her, so it seemed safe to assume that she would be safe for the time being. With Milim there, they should be able to handle the situation as long as it was not too much trouble. On the other hand, Luminous, although she had sent Xian and Adalman to support her, was not sure about her strength. After all, the Holy Knight Order, which is the key to the strength of the Luminous, had been placed in the kingdom of Ingratia with Hinata, the leader of the Holy Knight Order, at the head. Luminous also has a force called Bloody Knights, which consists of vampires, but it has only less than 400 members. The strength of the Bloody Knights is over A rank individually, and there are several surmounters who are comparable to a bad demon lord seed. The quality of the team is quite high. Even so, I could not remain silent when I heard that Jahal had been confirmed. So I left the cleanup at the kingdom of Ingratia to Hinata and Masayuki, and came here in a great hurry. And yet, there was already no sign of a fight, and I was led here, tasting Xian's sweets and waiting for Luminous to come. However, it had been only a few minutes at most before Luminous appeared on the stage. I was so surprised by Xian's progress that I spent more time talking with her. So I changed my mind and got down to the main topic. "So, how did the battle with the angels go?" "They retreated, so there was no serious damage. It seems that attacking here was not part of the plan in the first place." Luminous gave me a detailed account of the situation. As it turned out, it seems that the attack on this place was a runaway attack by Jahal. Or, as she put it, she was being harassed. "He and I have a history of disagreements," Luminous said. When I asked her what she meant, she did not tell me, but when I told her that Sylvia-san had told me some of the story, she told me with a disgusted look on her face. First of all, Luminous had a father figure. Twilight Valentine. A mythical being whose name means King of the Twilight. It is said that this twilight created many intelligent life forms, and that some of the founders of these life forms became known as the Godfather's high disciples. The first of them was Jahal. The second was Luminous, as Sylvia-san had told me. Each of the disciples of the Godfathers established their own country. In Sylvia-san's case, it seems that she herself only supported and helped her fellow High Elf, but in the end, the elf was united by her daughter, Almisa the Celestial, who is called Elton, and the Sorcerer's dynasty of Sarian was born. In the end, the elf was united by her daughter, Almia the Celestial, and the Sorcerer's dynasty of Sarian was born. Incidentally, Sylvia-san and Luminous are said to have a secret friendship even now. It is said that Sylvia-san has nothing to do with Erton, but is only known to Luminous. "Basically, I don't think we should interfere with Sarian," says Luminous. "But I did help him out in the beginning." This is what she said. "Since Sarian was founded more than 2,000 years ago, we do not know if Luminous' story is true or not. However, there is no reason for them to lie, since Luminous and Sylvia-san are like a living person." I was convinced that it was probably true, and listened to the rest of the story. I was told that Luminous and Sylvia-san are the only two of his disciples who are still alive today. At least, no one else seems to be in contact with them. The ancestor of King Gazel, the founder of the High Dwarfs, is said to have died, and the founders of the Fire Spirits, Enki, and the Water Spirits, Sirens, have probably reached the end of their lives. It seems that the only people who lived long lives were the High Elf, which is close to spirits. Speaking of longevity, the High Humans are the most likely to have lived a long life. This race was created purely by reversing the attributes of the ancestors. I hate to admit it, but I am a kind of duplicate of the ancestor, not strictly speaking a vampire, but a high-blooded princess. I was born from the blood of the ancestor. And Jahal is created by cultivating the body of the goddess. He does not seem to have inherited the power to absorb power from others, but he, too, was a new immortal being. The god ancestor did not need to eat, but deprived others of their life force to sustain itself. He had no particular weakness and was the embodiment of immortality. The two replicas of the gods were the High Human, a race that lives in the daytime, and the vampire, the ruler of the night. Living in the daytime is a metaphor. Plants produce energy through photosynthesis, and animals sustain life by eating them. Predation of the animals, predators store large amounts of energy, and the earth is enriched by the decomposition of their corpses by microorganisms. The role of the High Human is given to the person who stands at the top of the food chain. In other words, the High Human is a part of the food chain. Therefore, it is impossible to escape from lifespan, and Jahal was no exception. The average lifespan of a normal person living in an urban area is about 70 years old. This is the case without any magical means to prolong life. Although medical care is not well developed, people seem to live longer than expected because of magical cures. People living in rural areas or in areas adjacent to monster forests seem to have a shorter average life expectancy. I should also add that these figures are calculated without including deaths due to numerous disasters. On the other hand, high humans seem to live several hundred to nearly 1,000 years, which is equivalent to that of the long-eared elf people. It seems that their physical strength is different from that of the present humans, and they have a high tolerance to magicule, so they could have successfully taken in and used it. Even so, we cannot escape our lifespan, as long as our bodies are not immortal. That is why Jahal devised a method to extend his own lifespan indefinitely. It was the secret of spiritualization. If the three elements of the body, material body, spiritual body, and astral body, cannot be maintained at the same time, he thought it would be better to inherit only the lowest element that can maintain the ego. In other words, Jahal succeeded in converting the material body into the spiritual body, in order to preserve only the spiritual body and the astral body. Thus, Jahal was reborn as a spiritual life form of his own will. The mystic art of reincarnation developed by Gadra is very dangerous, because it is a secret technique to reincarnate a soul, while protecting it with an astral body. However, the body obtained is completely one's own, and all the experience and knowledge are inherited. Raisin's great secret art. Possession only transfers the spiritual body and the astral body to another person's body, but does not inherit any skills that are fixed in the body. It is highly secure, but it is incomplete, because mana is dependent on the body and may become weak. On the other hand, Jahal's secret of spiritualization was perfect. Since Jahal himself is a spiritual organism, he can safely and surely inherit the knowledge, experience, and all the powers he has gained. It is necessary to prepare a body as a surrogate, but it seems that he could have obtained such a body from his own blood relatives as much as he wanted. Thus, Jahal solved the problem of longevity, Luminous said bitterly. Well, if he had become a spirit life form, it makes sense that he was nearly immortal. I now understood that this was the reason why he had been able to take over Footman so easily. But he made a big mistake, too, because of his pride. Luminous told me that while Jahal was absorbed in his own research, his subordinates who were in charge of politics began to compete with each other for supremacy, and before long the country was divided. Eventually, the country was doomed by the mistake of summoning Gi, an uncontrollable demon. He resented for destroying the ancestors and harbored enmity toward her. She was glad to think that they died on their own. He didn't think that he would survive until the present time and resurrect with such abominable power. Yes. Luminous had killed his father, the Godfather. Jahal had a grudge against Luminous for that reason. He was a pain in the ass. Well, it's so troublesome that Benimir is having a hard time with him. As I was giving Luminous some advice, Xian overheard me and interrupted me. What? Benimir lost. Perhaps she was surprised, but it was assumed that Benimir had lost. I think I told this story to all the executives, but I wonder if it has been lost in Xian's memory. Well, it seems like Xian. He's not defeated. I corrected Xian's words on Benimir's honor. In my opinion, if you don't die, you win, but in reality, you only manage to make it to the end of the time. If the fight had continued as it was, there was no doubt that Benimir would have lost. I see, then Luminous Sama who defeated such an opponent is stronger than Benimir, isn't she? That's right. That's what I was wondering, too. No, in my opinion, there is not such a big difference in strength between Luminous and Benimir. That's why I thought Luminous and Benimir were in danger, and that's why I rushed to the scene. I also wanted to know how Luminous had defeated Jahal. So that's what this is about, Luminous said. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy it.